Welcome to the channel. I'm Mr. Greenvestor, and today we are talking about a mistake that could easily cost you six figures. Most of you have been told that the Roth IRA is the undisputed king of retirement planning. It sounds perfect, right? You pay your taxes now and you never owe the IRS a single penny again. But blindly following that tax-free advice is often just a massive tax tip to the government. If you are a high earner paying a 24% tax rate today just to avoid a 12% bill tomorrow, you are losing. I am going to show you how to engineer your accounts to use the 0% tax bracket instead. Don't lose your purchasing power by ignoring tax arbitrage. You have probably heard the famous analogy about the seed and the harvest. The idea is that it is better to pay tax on the small bag of seeds today rather than the massive harvest later. It sounds logical, but for high earners, that analogy is mathematically incomplete. It ignores the most important factor in wealth building, your marginal tax rate. The reality of tax brackets is that you need to compare what you are paying right now against your future effective rate. If you are a professional earning $160,000 a year, you are sitting in the 24% bracket. By choosing a Roth-only contribution, you are effectively telling the IRS you would rather give them 24 cents of every dollar today. The problem here is the massive opportunity cost. When you take the immediate tax deduction from a traditional 401k or IRA, that saved money stays in your pocket. You can reinvest those tax savings. Over 30 years, that extra capital compounding alongside your contributions creates a much larger nest egg. If you go all in on Roth, you are shrinking your starting capital significantly. Furthermore, tax-free withdrawals in retirement are actually a waste if you have no taxable income to fill up the standard deduction. Think about it. Every year, the IRS gives you a 0% tax bracket through the standard deduction. For a married couple, that is nearly $30,000 of income you can take for free. If all your money is in a Roth, that 0% bracket sits empty and useless. You have already paid 24% on money that could have been withdrawn at zero. We need to break the belief that a $0 tax bill in retirement is the goal. Your goal is not to avoid taxes entirely. It is to have the lowest total lifetime tax bill possible. If you pay 24% now to avoid a 10% or 12% bracket later, you have failed the math test. You are voluntarily overpaying the government because the word tax-free feels better than tax-deferred. But feelings don't fund your retirement. Math does. When you are in your peak earning years, that tax deduction is the most valuable tool you have. By ignoring it, you are throwing away a guaranteed 24% return on those tax savings. We have to stop looking at the Roth as a one-size-fits-all solution and start looking at it as one piece of a much larger puzzle. To understand how to actually fix this and keep more of your money, we need to look closer at what I call the empty bucket problem. To fix the empty bucket problem, you need to understand the three-bucket system. This is how you actually win the tax game. Think of your retirement savings as three distinct containers. You have your taxable brokerage account, your traditional pre-tax accounts like a 401k or IRA, and your tax-free Roth accounts. Most people pick one and ignore the rest, but the magic happens when you use them together. The reason is simple. The tax code is progressive. You don't just hit one tax rate, you climb a ladder. For a married couple today, the first $30,000 or so of income is taxed at exactly 0% because of the standard deduction. If you only have Roth money, you are wasting that 0% space. You already paid a high tax rate years ago on money that the government is now offering to let you take out for free. Let's look at a real comparison. Imagine two retirees. Retiree A went Roth only because they love the idea of no taxes. They have $2 million in a Roth IRA. Retiree B used a mixed strategy and has $1 million in a traditional IRA and $1 million in a Roth. When they both need $100,000 to live on, retiree A takes it from the Roth. Their tax bill is zero. but they previously paid 24% or more to get that money into the account. Now look at retiree B. They take the first $30,000 from their traditional IRA. Because of the standard deduction, their federal tax on that $30,000 is zero. Then, they take the next $23,000 to fill up the 10% bracket. After that, they pull from the 12% bracket. Only after they have exhausted those low-tax buckets do they touch their Roth money for the remainder of their spending. By doing this, retiree B is filling the low-tax brackets with money they never paid high taxes on during their career. They got a 24% tax break when they were working, and now they are withdrawing that same money at an effective rate of maybe 8% or 10%. That is a massive mathematical win. You are essentially pocketing the difference between your high career tax rate and your low retirement tax rate. This is called tax arbitrage, and it is the most consistent way to grow your wealth without taking extra market risk. When we run the simulations, this mixed strategy often extends portfolio longevity by nearly 15%. That is several extra years of income just by being smart about which bucket you grab first. The bottom line is that the first $40,000 to $50,000 of your retirement spending should almost always come from a traditional, taxable account. You want to use that money to soak up the standard deduction and the 10% bracket every single year. If you don't use that space, it's gone forever. You can't roll over an unused tax bracket to next year. By having a mix of accounts, you give yourself the flexibility to stay in control. You become the manager of your own tax bill instead of just a passenger. But saving the money in the right buckets is only half the battle. You also have to watch out for what I call the success taxes that show up later. Now you might be thinking, if the traditional account is so great for filling those low brackets, why not put every single dollar there? Well, that is where the success taxes come in. If you do too well and save too much in a traditional IRA or 401k, the government eventually loses its patience. They have been waiting decades for their cut, and they aren't going to wait forever. At age 73, you hit what I call the tax bomb, required minimum distributions, or RMDs. This is the point where the IRS literally forces you to take money out of your traditional accounts, whether you actually need the cash or not. If your nest egg has grown to $2 or $3 million because you were a disciplined saver, those forced withdrawals can be massive. Suddenly, you are pushed out of those nice 10% and 12% brackets and shoved right back into the 24% or 32% range. You spent your whole working life trying to escape high taxes, only to be trapped by your own success in the end. But it actually gets much worse because of how these forced withdrawals interact with your other benefits. Let's talk about the Social Security tax torpedo. Most people assume Social Security is tax-free. It isn't. If your provisional income, which includes half of your Social Security plus your other taxable withdrawals, crosses a certain threshold, up to 85% of your benefits become taxable. This creates a nasty ripple effect. Every extra dollar you take from your traditional IRA doesn't just cost you the tax on that dollar. It also activates taxes on your Social Security benefits that were previously protected. It is a double hit that can effectively spike your marginal tax rate to over 40% for a specific range of income. This is why having some Roth money is critical. Roth withdrawals don't count toward that Social Security calculation. They are essentially invisible to the formula, which lets you keep more of your government check in your own pocket. Then there is the hidden healthcare tax called IRMAA. If you are on Medicare and your income crosses certain cliffs, the government adds a surcharge to your Part B and Part D premiums. These aren't gradual increases. They are sharp cliffs. If you go just $1 over the limit, your monthly healthcare costs can jump by hundreds of dollars. It is basically a success tax on retirees who didn't manage their taxable income streams. By having a tax-free Roth bucket to pull from, You can stay exactly $1 below those IRMAA cliffs while still having enough cash to enjoy your lifestyle. The goal is to find what I call the sweet spot. You want enough in your traditional account to fill the low brackets, but not so much that RMDs blow up your tax plan at 73. This is why tax diversification is the real secret. You need different tools for different problems. If you have too much in traditional, you face the RMD bomb. If you have too much in Roth, you probably wasted the tax breaks during your peak career years. Balancing these buckets is how you protect yourself from the triple threat of RMDs, the Social Security torpedo, and IRMAA surcharges. It is about keeping your taxable income low enough to be efficient, but high enough to use the 0% and 10% brackets the government gives you. Now that you see the traps, let's talk about how to actually bridge the gap using the golden window. This is the period between the day you retire and the day you turn 73. For many of my viewers, this is a decade or more of opportunity. During these years, your career income has stopped, but your forced RMDs haven't started yet. This is your chance to manufacture low-income years on purpose. You can use this time to perform what we call Roth conversion ladders. This means you move money from your traditional IRA into your Roth IRA. Why would you do that? Because you can choose to move just enough to fill up the 10% or 12% brackets while your other income is low. Think about the math here. You got a 24% or 32% tax break when you put the money in during your 40s. Now, in your early 60s, you are moving it to a tax-free Roth account while only paying 10% or 12%. You just effectively washed your money and pocketed a 12% to 20% gain purely from tax savings. This is how the wealthy stay wealthy. They don't just wait for the tax bill, they engineer it. By doing these conversions during your gap years, you reduce the size of your traditional account, which shrinks your future RMD bomb. You are basically diffusing the explosion before it can ever happen. To make this work, you also need a healthy taxable brokerage account. This is your bridge money. If you use your brokerage account to pay for your living expenses during these gap years, your reportable income stays very low. This gives you more room to do those Roth conversions without pushing yourself into higher brackets. It is a beautiful, coordinated dance between your three buckets. However, you have to be careful with the technical hurdles, like the 5-year rule for Roth conversions. You can't just move the money and spend it the next day without penalties if you aren't careful with the timing of your withdrawals. Your 40s and 50s are the most critical time to start balancing these buckets. If you realize at age 70 that all your money is in a traditional 401k, it might be too late to move enough of it without hitting massive tax rates. You want to start building that taxable brokerage account and that Roth bucket now, so you have the flexibility later. The bottom line is that a great retirement isn't just about how much you save. It is about how much you keep. By engineering your income during those gap years, you take the power back from the IRS. You aren't just saving for the future. You are designing a system that works for you, no matter what happens to tax laws. This strategy ensures your money lasts longer and your stress stays lower. The bottom line is that a Roth-only strategy sounds safe, but it often leaves money on the table. By diversifying your tax buckets, you are building a resilient, mathematically optimized plan. Your homework today is simple. Look up your current marginal tax bracket and compare it to what you actually plan to spend in retirement. Don't just save blindly. Diversify your tax treatment so you have options later. If this breakdown helped you see the math behind the curtain, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Now, to see how to actually spend this money safely, watch our deep dive on the 4% rule linked above.